The 2007 edition was hosted by the US. The North Zone had automatic qualification. Haiti, Trinidad and Tobago, Cuba, and Guadeloupe all qualified via the 2007 Caribbean Cup. Costa Rica, Panama, Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador qualified via the 2007 CONCACAF Nations Cup. The tournament had 3 groups of 4 in which the top 2 of each group and the 2 best third places from all the groups went on to the knockout round. Once in the knockout round, the US would beat Panama and Canada to reach the final, while Mexico would beat Costa Rica and Guadeloupe to reach the final. In the final, the US would beat Mexico 2-1, meaning both nations now had 4 Gold Cups each. The 2009 edition was hosted by the US. The North Zone had automatic qualification. Jamaica, Grenada, Guadeloupe, and Haiti qualified via the 2009 Caribbean Cup. Originally, Cuba qualified, but they withdrew, so that's why it says Haiti qualified as 5th place. Costa Rica, Panama, Nicaragua, El Salvador, and Honduras qualified via the 2009 CONCACAF Nations Cup. The tournament followed the same format as the previous edition. The US would beat Panama and Honduras to reach the final, while Mexico beat Haiti and Costa Rica to reach the final. In the final, Mexico would hand the US its worst defeat at a Gold Cup, as Mexico would win 5-0 and regain the title of nation with the most Gold Cups, now at 5. The 2011 edition was hosted by the US. The North Zone had automatic qualification. Jamaica, Guadeloupe, Cuba, and Grenada qualified via the 2011 Caribbean Cup. Honduras, Costa Rica, Panama, El Salvador, and Guatemala qualified via the rebranded 2011 Copa Centroamericana. The format for the Gold Cup was the same as the previous edition. The US would beat Jamaica and Panama to reach the final, and Mexico would beat Guatemala and Honduras to reach the final. Then, in one of the best finals for a Gold Cup, Mexico would beat the US 4-2 to win its 6th Gold Cup title. This is the game in which Giovanni Dos Santos scored that insane goal. In case you've never seen it, look it up. The 2013 edition was hosted by the US. The North Zone had automatic qualification. Cuba, Trinidad and Tobago, Haiti, and Martinique qualified via the 2012 Caribbean Cup. Costa Rica, Honduras, El Salvador, Belize, and Panama all qualified via the 2013 Copa Centroamericana. Panama would beat Cuba and Mexico to reach the final for the second time in its history, while the US would beat El Salvador and Honduras to reach the final. In the final, the US would beat Panama 1-0 to win the Gold Cup for their 5th time. The 2015 edition was hosted by Canada and the US. The North Zone had automatic qualification. Costa Rica, Guatemala, Panama, and El Salvador all qualified via the 2015 Copa Centroamericana. Jamaica, Trinidad and Tobago, Haiti, and Cuba qualified via the 2015 Caribbean Cup. Honduras qualified after playing a 5th place playoff match against French Guiana. The format for the Gold Cup was the same as the previous edition. Jamaica would beat Haiti and the US to reach the final, while Mexico would reach the final by beating Costa Rica and Panama in highly controversial matches. In the final, Mexico would win the Gold Cup for the 7th time after beating Jamaica 3-1. The 2017 edition was hosted by the US. The North Zone had automatic qualification. Honduras, Panama, El Salvador, and Costa Rica qualified via the 2007 Copa Centroamericana. Curaçao, Jamaica, Martinique, and French Guiana qualified via the 2017 Caribbean Cup. Nicaragua qualified via a 5th place playoff match against Haiti. The format for the Gold Cup was the same as the previous edition. The US beat El Salvador and Costa Rica to reach the final. Jamaica beat Canada and Mexico to reach the final. In the final, the US would be crowned champion for the 6th time after beating Jamaica with a 2-1 score. Also, that's gotta suck for Jamaica. You know, in one edition, you beat the US, but Mexico beat you. And then in the next edition, you beat Mexico, but the US beat you. Like, that's gotta suck, man. The 2019 edition was hosted by Costa Rica, Jamaica, and the US. This would be the first and so far only time in which the Gold Cup would have a Caribbean nation or a Central American nation to host some games. The formatting and qualification would change as CONCACAF would create the CONCACAF Nations League and essentially would get rid of the Caribbean Cup and the Copa Centroamericana. No teams would have automatic qualifiers. Instead, the 6 teams that made the hexagonal in the 2016 World Cup qualifiers would be the first teams to qualify for the 2019 Gold Cup. These would be Mexico, Costa Rica, Panama, the US, Honduras, and Trinidad and Tobago. The other 10 teams would qualify via the 2019 and 2020 CONCACAF Nations League qualifiers. The nations to qualify through here would be Haiti, Canada, Martinique, Curacao, Bermuda, Cuba, Guyana, Jamaica, Nicaragua, and El Salvador. The format was now 4 teams of 4, in which the top 2 of each group would move on to the quarterfinals. Once we got to the knockout rounds, Mexico would beat Costa Rica and Haiti to reach the final, while the US would beat Curacao and Jamaica to reach the final. In the final, Mexico would win its 8th Gold Cup title after beating the US 1-0. The most recent Gold Cup was the 2021 edition. It was hosted by the US. The 2019-2020 CONCACAF Nations League's results, as well as some preliminary qualifiers, were used for qualifications. Canada, Honduras, Grenada, the US, Mexico, Jamaica, El Salvador, Costa Rica, Martinique, Suriname, and Panama all qualified via the Nations League. Trinidad and Tobago, Haiti, and Guadeloupe all qualified via the preliminary Gold Cup qualifiers. Curacao originally had qualified as well via the Nations League, but withdrew after there was a outbreak in the team. They were replaced by Guatemala for being the best team out of all the teams that were eliminated in the preliminary round. Oh, also Qatar was invited as it was going to host the 2022 World Cup. The format of the Gold Cup itself was the same as the previous edition. After the group stage, the US would beat Jamaica and Qatar to reach the final, while Mexico would beat Honduras and Canada to reach the final. And in the final, the US would win its 7th Gold Cup after beating Mexico 1-0 in extra time. And that's all the Gold Cups that have taken place. I want to note that from 1993 to 2002, the Gold Cup served as a qualifying process for the now defunct FIFA Confederations Cup, with the winner being the nations to represent CONCACAF at the tournament. From 2003 to 2011, the only Gold Cup tournament that served for the FIFA Confederations Cup was the tournament that was being held prior to the Confederations Cup. This meant the 2005 and 2009 Gold Cup editions were used for regional purposes. CONCACAF then tried to make every Gold Cup tournament as a possibility to qualify to the FIFA Confederations Cup. For example, since the USA won the 2013 Gold Cup, had they won the 2015 edition, they would have qualified automatically to the 2017 Confederations Cup. Instead, Mexico won the 2015 edition, forcing the first and only CONCACAF Cup to take place, in which Mexico won 3-2 and thus qualified to the 2017 Confederations Cup. As of now, the Gold Cup is still happening every other year, with the next edition to take place in the summer of 2023. And since the Confederations Cup doesn't exist anymore, the CONCACAF Gold Cup is now used solely for regional purposes, while the CONCACAF Cup was scrapped. Alright, so I'm going to finish the men's division by talking about the World Cup qualifiers from 1995 to 2022.